It's late in the day on Sunday, October 19th, 2025. All eyes on what's going on right here. Thank you for being part of this weather community. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. Not here to waste your time, so I want to give you some of the new information, what I'm seeing in this area, going off of the video that we had earlier this morning. The heavy rain, as expected, has moved in. Now, some of us not a whole lot, but others getting just huge amounts of some rain, right? Some tropical downpours. I've been watching your comments. This is the tropical wave that is going to continue to work into the Caribbean. As it does, unfortunately, conditions are going to become more favorable for development, and it looks like a hurricane forming in the Caribbean is more and more likely. Where it goes, still in question, as we well know, but this is a spot we're watching. It should be shifting off toward the west and developing. Then at some point, a lot of the models are hinting at more of a northward turn. We'll see. Sometimes this time of year, things could kind of get stuck in the Caribbean and just shift towards Central America. So know that in Belize, for example, Honduras, elsewhere, watching everyone with this area as it starts to evolve, as it starts to move closer. Right now, though, the immediate concern, not losing sight of that, is some of the heavier rain. You see, this is what I was talking about. Dominica, not a whole lot. Martinique, we've had some showers. St. Lucia as well. Barbados, St. Vincent the Grenadines on and off. Trinidad and Tobago, it's been heavier in some spots and some reports of flooding. Watching that, especially over towards southern Trinidad. This will progress into the Caribbean as we go over the next day or so and then start to develop as we work our way into the upcoming week. I do want to mention, I know these things, no doubt, high anxiety time of year. That's why my promise to you is I got you covered as we track these things together. And this is going to eventually be a slow mover, which means we'll be tracking it for days and days, but I will be able to give you the heads up on this channel exactly where this area will eventually go to help protect life and property and valuing, again, your resources. And we all have different means, so I'll be watching that. So as it stands now, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, we are in monitor mode. That doesn't mean action mode, but that means kind of a heightened alert where we're thinking about, hey, if I end up in action mode, what do I need to do? So we're kind of making our hurricane plan. That's what monitor mode is. This may shift elsewhere as we go out in time. I'll keep an eye on the Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, Cuba, Cayman Islands. I mentioned Central America, so we'll see how this goes. But as of now, monitor mode, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico for a developing system in the Caribbean that could be close by or potentially moving in late in the week or by the upcoming weekend, next weekend. That's how long we're going to be tracking this. Even the European model, we will be tracking this according to that into next week. That's why I mentioned it's going to be a long haul, but that's why I'll put out those additional videos. So I appreciate you subscribing so you could get that current update. Now, I want to show you some different areas. Here's Colombia. I know this map has a lot of colors, but for good reason. There's a lot of rain coming our way. Here's Venezuela, watching the islands, and then watching Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, right in through here. Now, this tropical wave is going to move very close to the ABC Islands. That'll enhance the rain eventually. Colombia and Venezuela. We're already seeing that northeastern Venezuela back through Trinidad. But as we swing over the next few days, including Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we got to keep a very close eye on this. As of now, it looks like we could have some totals of about 100 millimeters or 4 inches of rain for the ABC Islands, for example. But that core of really heavy stuff would be just to the north. I mean, it'll be heavy, but even higher totals, upwards of 20 centimeters or about 8 inches of rain. That would be just to the north. So this is a model, and there'll be some changes. There's a chance some of that could shift to the south. So giving you a heads up, watching Colombia, Venezuela, and the ABC Islands very carefully. I'm not seeing it developing into a hurricane on top of the ABC Islands, but as this tropical wave moves in and moves close, we're going to see the increased chance of rain and gusty winds at times. Now, some of the models, this is kind of a feel of what we're going to see. This will move to the west, but then it's really going to slow down. This time of year, it's extra tricky because we're deep into autumn now. There are fronts to the north. At times, these fronts pass by and they could grab this area. And that's why we're in monitor mode right now from Puerto Rico back through Jamaica, because as this develops, I'm still not quite certain if a front will grab this early to lift it to the north. The American model insists on doing that, bringing this a little bit closer to the Dominican Republic and maybe even Puerto Rico. Most of the other models are off toward the west. Again, some really bring this back toward the west, a lot very close to Jamaica. Jamaica doesn't mean we have a hurricane moving in quite yet, right? We are in monitor mode. We need to see together what happens, but we're in a heightened alert. So I do appreciate you sharing this information just to get the right information out, because there's going to be a lot of crazy information out there as we go over the next couple of days. But this will move to the west. It'll slow down. It'll strengthen. That's what I know. Then at some point, it may get pulled to the north, kind of a wait and see on that. That'll be a wait and see on as well to see how close this could get to parts of Central America if it takes more of that westerly track. All right, either way, the strengthening, we're going to see that. Now, these are some of those same squiggly lines, computer models, a day out, 2 days out, 3 days out. You see 3 days out, 72 hours out. This still has it either as a tropical storm or even not a tropical storm. Slow development as it moves in. I will keep an eye on any rapid development because I covered that. If you see the video I did this morning, I talked about the water temperature is very warm and the heat content. Those are those huge pockets that go way down that are very deep. This area is going to move over that. Sometimes that could rapidly intensify a system, so I know that. Got you covered, had you covered with Beryl, for example, last year that did that. Aaron this year as well. So I will be watching for that. If I see any signs that this could rapidly intensify down the road, I will of course let you know. But as we go over the next couple of days, borderline tropical storm-like conditions. And then once we get past 3 days by the end of the week, that's when we'll start to see some strengthening. Wednesday into Thursday, Friday, this could be a hurricane or at least a tropical storm in spots. Some of the models are now showing that this could become Category 1, Category 2 higher as we get down the road. I don't just look at the surface, I look at what's going on above us. It's not a lot of wind shear for the most part that may allow this to strengthen just further as we work our way into the upcoming weekend. Now, here's a look at some of the models. Now, I mentioned a long haul of watching this. This is the European model, just to give you an idea. Now, this will, I trust your judgment. You've been with me for years, that this will change. These are just computer models. That's why I have a monitor mode, action mode. I do the forecasting to really let you know because computer models could be completely out to lunch sometimes. But the European model has this area early next week. So we're talking 7-8 days from now, back in the Western Caribbean, close to the Cayman Islands or Jamaica, watching Central America as a developing hurricane. And I'll show you this model in just a second. We'll take you out in time with that together. Meanwhile, the American model also has this becoming a hurricane, but it kind of has it almost stalling out south of Haiti, watching the Dominican Republic. I've already been in contact with one of our teams in Haiti. I've reached out to a team that we have on the ground in the Dominican Republic, just kind of putting that word out. So we've got some folks on the ground that handle some recovery efforts. So I like to track storm start to finish. And again, even after that, if there's a way this channel could help, we do that. Now, watching this area, Haiti and the Dominican Republic, you see here late in the week, it has it developing into a hurricane. And I'll show you this in a second as well. And then it has it lifting to the north. I mentioned that's the trickiness with this. If it may just move to the west, yes, but at some point a front may grab it and lift it to the north. And that is really tricky to forecast. It's hard to forecast the weather 3 days out, yet alone tropical systems deep into fall with fronts. But that's the American model, and I'll show you that in just a moment. As we work our way to the Canadian model, very similar scenario to the European model, showing this in the Western Caribbean, but late in the week, earlier development. European model is slower to develop, and the Icon German model has this area as a hurricane very close to Jamaica, and then eventually lifting north. Several of these models eventually, at some point, try to tug it to the north. So I'll keep an eye on the Gulf, no doubt, because if anything gets far enough to the west, we'll see if it lifts up to the north, so we get back through the Gulf, Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, watching everyone with this just to see how this shakes out. But there's going to be a lot of time between now and kind of where this thing finishes up. Now, here's the European model. So here's the Gulf, here's the Caribbean, here's the Atlantic. High pressure, that acts like a fence or a blocker. So that keeps this area down to the south. That's why this area is moving to the west. I mentioned a few videos ago, it was not going to take an early curve like the last several systems. And here we are. It has moved in. It's moving into the Caribbean right now. Then by the time we get into Wednesday, the European model doesn't develop yet. It has a lot of rain though with it. Here are these fronts. This is the front that the American model says, hey, it's going to grab it and pull it to the north. I'll show you that in a second. But the European model says this front's going to be weak. It's going to kind of miss it. And then that means the rain just hangs out. This would be by Friday. Here's Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Cuba, Haiti, back through the Dominican Republic. A lot of rain just kind of sitting here. And then it feeds off of the warm water temperatures, that high heat content. And then this weekend, it starts to develop. And then early next week, trying to develop into a hurricane, keeping an eye on Honduras and the islands back through Nicaragua. But the European model showing by early to mid next week some sort of hurricane sitting somewhere in the Western Caribbean. But now this is going to change. That's a week and a half from now, so we'll see how this shakes out. But I do want to give you all the information I have behind the scenes, and I'll continue to forecast as we go forward and let you know if we need to prepare anywhere. Now here's the American model. Similar scenario, at least initially, showing the heavier rain that we have around right now, and then it works into the Caribbean. The American model has this develop sooner and then has it feeling that front up to the north. A system that gets stronger quicker tends to go to the north quicker, so that's something we'll be watching. Stronger systems want to find the path of least resistance, and oftentimes that is to the north if it could find an alleyway. You see here by Tuesday, just like the American model, the blobs of rain, seeing how close some of this rain gets to Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the ABC Islands, because this is going to be a lot of rain. Backside of it, still dealing with some spotty rain back through the Eastern Caribbean, but we need to monitor this core of rain very carefully. We don't need a named system to cause big problems with tropical downpours. Then by Wednesday, you see this area still sitting, and you see how it just kind of stalls out. Both the American and the European model, regardless of if it's here or here, have this going so very slow. This is by Wednesday, but by the time we get into Wednesday and Thursday, the American model starts to develop this into a tropical storm on Thursday. So if it's not a tropical storm on Thursday, we know that this model is off, but I'll know that ahead of time. Then you could see it trying to kind of lift up toward the north, either toward Haiti, the Dominican Republic, or Puerto Rico, potentially as a tropical storm or hurricane. We'll see, though. I just showed you another good model that shows it sitting over here, but you can see the trickiness of it because of these fronts. When might something, if at all, get pulled to the north? Now, which model's better? Well, that's why I do the forecasting behind the scenes. Models could handle one storm well, another storm not well at all. It really just depends on really what's going on. So the European model is typically very good. The American model is usually very good short term. So it just, different models have a better read on the environment depending on what's going on. So I know it's kind of a tricky answer, but that's why I do this, to watch everything behind the scenes, to give you that heads up, and again mention monitor mode, and then we'll see who needs to go into action mode. Now the next name on the list is Melissa, Nestor, Olga after that, then Pablo, but Melissa, if this area gets a name and nothing else flares up out there, Melissa would be the name on the list that we'll be looking out for. So in the short term, watching the heavy rain right for us in the Eastern Caribbean. I'll be watching your comments throughout the night. Early tomorrow morning, we'll be tracking that as well. Tomorrow morning's video, very critical, because I'll have a better handle on everything that is to come as we get down the road. And if we have any changes in monitor mode or action mode, I'll be able to pass that along in tomorrow morning's video. Now the system will slow down in the Caribbean, all the models showing that, and then that will allow it to kind of develop, most likely at this point, into a hurricane, be it either in the Eastern, Central, or Western Caribbean. Not sure yet, and then we'll see if it gets tugged to the north, but I'll know that just over the next couple of days. So if we need to go into action mode in some locations, I'll be able to give you that early heads up to protect life and property. So thank you for being part of this weather community. I hope you're doing well. Be safe if you're dealing with some of the flooding. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night ahead.